If you have been feeling really frustrated in your marriage, perhaps it's been like walking on eggshells in case you say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing and triggers yet another argument, another conflict. Well, in this episode, I'm going to share with you the one thing that made the huge difference for me in my marriage. So I've been married for 33 years now, and my husband and I have had our share of highlights and lowlights and joys and thrills and challenges, and yes, even a crisis. So, my husband had been serving in the Australian Army for 13 years, deployed overseas, away from home quite frequently, all that sort of thing. Well, that all came to an end when he had a major breakdown and he was subsequently diagnosed with post traumatic stress disorder. And it was in the days and weeks and months following his that event and in his subsequent diagnosis that I was faced with the reality that I couldn't keep doing the same things I'd been doing and expect a different result. Something needed to change. And because of my husband's condition, I had to take the responsibility. I had to make a decision myself to be the change that I wanted to see in our marriage. And so I got to work on myself, developing my own self awareness and really, I guess you could say, doing a bit of an audit in terms of trying to understand what was it that led us to getting to this point in our marriage where we weren't even sure if we were going to make it as a husband and wife. And one of the first steps that I did after making that decision to be the change that I knew we needed was paying attention to my thoughts and the way that I was processing things. And the other thing that I did, and this is what I want to focus on in this episode, was get curious. Now, it sounds kind of simplistic. What do you mean, Julie? Curious. When you're going through all of this stuff and you're dealing with conflict, what do you mean? You can probably imagine the kind of conversations that my husband and I had to navigate our way through following his breakdown. The irony is, I noticed about myself that I would often do everything I could to avoid difficult conversations because I hated the idea of conflict. And so things were often on a surface level. And for my husband, he didn't want me to worry about what was going on deep within him. And so he kept things to himself. And we kind of created this unhealthy way of being that had good intention, but there was almost an inevitability of things bubbling up to the surface, right? And so I had to lean in on having difficult conversations, initiating them, getting to a particular outcome. Anyway, I'm digressing. The one thing that I found helped me not get really emotional, helped me to not constantly be in defensive mode. You know what it's like when you're sitting together and there's a conversation happening and your partner or your husband is or spouse is saying something and you're already pre-planning what you're going to say in response, or your thoughts are like, I can't believe they just said that, and you're just having this whole response thing without saying anything yet, but there's all this churn going on, right? What I found is that when that's all going on, I'm not really listening. And so I had to learn how to regulate my emotions and my thoughts in the middle of the conversation. And one of the best things I did to help do that was to ask more questions. What does that look like? So when my husband would be speaking, I would say something like, tell me more about that. Or what else is important to you about that? And what I found was as I used different types of open questions that he responded to, I learned more about his point of view on a particular topic. And so, earlier, I was in reactive mode, making assumptions about what I thought he was meaning. By asking more questions, by digging deeper, by being curious, I would learn that there was more to this perspective he's talking about that I'd initially thought. And so I got to know him better. I got to know him and what he was thinking about certain things more accurately and clearly than if I had have just jumped in on the conversation to get my point across. So curiosity is the key to turn conflict into connection, asking questions. And I'm just going to quickly refer to my notes that I've got here. There's a fantastic book by an author called Jefferson Fisher. And the book is called The Next Conversation: How to Argue Less and Talk More. And he says this, he uses the analogy of a river. A river looks smooth on the surface, but underneath there's a current going. You can't see it, but there's a current there, right? So he said this, and I thought it's so true. The person that you see isn't the person that you're talking to. The person you see isn't the person that you are talking to. And I found this so, looking back, spot on, because, you know, when we're in a conversation with our partner, we only see on the surface. There is so much more going on beneath the surface for both of us in the conversation, right? There's a lot going on for me. There's a lot going on for my husband. And so this whole key around being curious helps to draw that out from inside the other person and inside myself too. So this key of being curious, I used it on myself to become more aware of what my triggers were, to become more aware of the way that I would rely so much on his response to things that validated my own sense of self-worth. That was a big issue for me. And so it was through being curious and wanting to understand how that was affecting me. The other important key I want you to keep in mind is this. We come into a relationship with a history of past experiences all the way back from our childhood. And it is from those past experiences that our own beliefs are formed. The way that we see ourselves, the way that we see others, all goes through a filter, through a lens that we put in front of our thinking. And when you sit down to talk to another person in the room, and I'll stick with the husband and wife example, it's not just the two of you in the room. It's your past relationships, your past boyfriends, girlfriends, etc. It's your parents, it's your significant others, all of these other people that have been in your life that have influenced you and shaped you are in the room as well. So just be kind to each other and keep that in mind. This is where curiosity is really powerful, because it means with that awareness, you can ask yourself questions like, where is that belief I have coming from? What's the root behind that? Rather than just, what's the word I'm looking for? Being in default mode, assuming that that's just the way I've always been. Well, why is it that you've always been that way? What's behind that? Again, being curious about that to get to the bottom of it, to understand it so that you can change it. Okay. So all of this to say, curiosity is a key that can unlock so much when it comes to changing, or what's the word? Turning conflict into deeper connection. Curiosity really is a powerful tool to help you do that. The resource that I have for you is what I call a pre-conversation guide. So it has got some prompting questions in there for you. So when you know that you've got something important you want to talk about, but you're also a bit apprehensive about your emotions and how you might react and all that sort of thing, it helps you to just get really clear about the one thing you want to talk about, and also helps to stabilize all of those emotions and the thinking and all of this noise and zero in on what you want to address. So that'll be in the link for you below. And I hope you find it useful and helpful. I sure did, just to get that clarity. Let me know in the comments below if this has helped you. I'd love to hear about it. And hey, share something else that's made a difference for you in your marriage, in your relationship when it comes to dealing with conflict. That'd be great. I'd love to hear from you.